Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Pia and I am so happy that you're joining me here today for a little chat about yarn and knitting. This week I am coming to you from Dallas, Texas, where we're having some interesting weather. Yesterday it was 28 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but I can tell you 28 is warm. It's like going to the beach warm. And then this morning it was 7 degrees, which is definitely not warm. But I guess that's just Texas. Most days my short-sleeved sweaters, just like this one, actually serve me very, very well. Just providing enough warmth without making me feel all hot. Today I am wearing my cat number 2, which is a design that I created and knitted throughout our second Knitathon. That was the Knitathon that we had in the fall of last year, and it is one of my favorite short-sleeved sweaters. I didn't realize that because of the colorway that I picked for this, it's kind of difficult to see the details of it. So I'm just gonna come all up and close here so that you can see the lace detail of the neckline here. This is a lace pattern that is built over a ribbed background, which means that it has a really nice fit over the shoulders. And then it goes into this quite oversized body, a lot of ease built in here, which I really like. And then there's some body shaping. You can see it's somewhat longer in back than in front. So it's made so that the body like pulls up and together in front, which it's such a cute and playful look, I think. I really enjoy this sweater, especially over here where I would say I could get away with wearing this one almost every day, except of course for summer. I don't know what people wear over here in summer, but probably not knitwear. The yarn that I picked for this one is something that I was trying to challenge myself to pick a rich and vibrant color, and this one definitely ticks those boxes, right? With all of the reds and the pinks and the oranges, yellows. It is so beautiful. It is a merino alpaca silk single spun yarn, and I was expecting some pilling because it's a single, but actually it's not bad at all. And this has really been worn a lot. I don't know if it's the stronger fibers in the alpaca and the silk that sort of controls the amount of pilling, but I will say when it starts to pill, I will depill it and be fine with it. It's totally worth it to have this soft and yummy sweater. It is so incredibly soft. The yarn is from one of our Danish hand dyers by Kilarek, and I will of course link the yarn and the pattern in the description box below. I have 2 finished objects this week. The first of which is one that you have seen over and over again. I've been knitting on this for some weeks. My Snowflower Wrap, which is finally off the needles. I am so happy that I managed to finish this in time to bring it over here because I'm using it all the time. I am using it for our afternoon walks every day. I'm using it as a scarf. Just let it hang around my neck to just give a little bit of warmth on those days where it's 7 or thereabout. I really like the way that it hangs when you use it as a scarf because of these pointy long ends. It just really hangs so beautifully on the body. You don't have this excess of material that you will sometimes have with a larger scarf because these longer ends just allows it to flow more naturally on the body. And then I use it every time that we go out to a restaurant because for some reason restaurants over here are super cold. So when we go out, I use it as a wrap and I can be all warm and toasty and not be bothered by the aircon and just snuggle in my lovely wrap. This one is knit out of a really lovely blend of baby alpaca, silk and cashmere. And this is the undyed gray color. So this is just the undyed fiber. And it is such a beautiful gray. I really do appreciate the grays. And this one is so beautiful. And there's, yeah, I love my grays. And I love the yarn. It is super soft and super drapey, which also makes it perfect for something like this. I am going to publish a pattern for it, but I will say, if you have the pattern for my Snowflower baby blanket, you're not going to need this pattern. And vice versa, if you get this pattern, you can also make the baby blanket. This wrap has 10 stitches fewer than the baby blanket, and then it's just much longer. The baby blanket uses 2 skeins of fingering, where this one uses 3 skeins. But those are the only differences between the 2 patterns, so no need to get both for sure. Did I mention that this yarn, I don't think I mentioned, I was just swooming over the yarn. I never told you where I got it. I got it from another of our Danish hand dyers, Anita's World. She specializes in all these super soft, non-itchy, allergy-friendly luxury yarns. So she has this baby alpaca, silk and cashmere base, and it is yummy. I also have another finished object. I'm just going to move up a little here. I also have another finished object this week. And this is something that I cast on, knit, and finished since my last recording. I made myself a vest. And it's a super simple vest made from the same recipe that I use for the children's vests. Where you have this one shoulder stitch and you increase around that until you reach the required width. You do some short rows, yeah, and then you just knit. At some point, I may or may not write this up as a pattern. But in one of my previous podcasts, I actually go through in quite a lot of detail how to make these vests because it is super simple. I will try to see if I can find the episode and link it in the description box below. It is one of the last episodes from Dallas, but let me see if I can find it and link it in the description box below this video. So this is a practical knit in more than one way. I mean, you can never have too many vests. That's a given. You need vests. But also, I needed some instant gratification because as you will see in the next segment, my current whips are both forever knits. Like these huge undertakings that will just keep me happily occupied for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I just needed something like a quick fix. So I found some drops soft tweed in this beautiful charcoal blackish colorway. It is number, let me see, number 9, color number 9 drops soft tweed. And I decided to make a vest for myself. Yeah, so one more finished object, and now I can start wearing it. I decided I'm not gonna wear this until I have shown it on the podcast, but now I can wear it. This weather is very good for vests. I use my vests over shirts, over dresses, but also I use them a lot over t-shirts, just a white t-shirt and then a vest, just to give a little bit of extra warmth. And it is so easy to just take it off if it's too much. It's a bit like a cardigan. I don't know, it's kind of silly because it's not that much more difficult to take off a sweater compared to a cardigan or a vest. It just feels easier. Am I the only one who thinks like this? Am I just being crazy now? Probably. But anyway, yeah, cute little vest for me to enjoy over here, and also when I continue back to Denmark and Italy. I have 2 active whips. I am still enjoying focusing my attention on fewer projects and really getting into those, with the exception of the instant gratification knit every now and then. But I actually have put quite some work into my 2 forever knits, because for sure they are both forever knits. The first one especially. The first one is the Ellsworth Shawl by Scott Rohr, and it is a huge shawl that is knit in 3 panels like this. So you have this and 2 more, and you then seam them together at the end. And you start by knitting the center panel, and I have finished that one. I actually cast it on so that I would have some beach knitting for when we were in the Maldives, and I did a lot of beach knitting. And it's super fun. It's a funny project. It's a nice project. I will say though that I do recommend that you come up with some kind of system to help you navigate the pattern. Because the way this pattern is written is actually much like the pattern that I made, exactly like this. So you have these different instructions for the wedges here, and then you have another set of instructions for the order to knit the wedges and X amount of garter ridges between wedges. So after I knit the first 2 of these wedges, I was like, I need to come up with a system. I was driving myself crazy because I just had the pattern on my phone and I was flipping through it back and forth and back and forth. I think it would have been even worse if I had printed it out, because then I would have had paper all over it. And I never do paper patterns. I always keep them on my phone. I prefer digital patterns. But I came up with a system for myself where I could just put very few numbers in a note on my phone. So I would put like 2, 12, 8, and next line 4, and next line 3, 8, 1. And that would actually be enough information for me to knit a wedge. So what I did was I went through all of the instructions for the order in which to knit the wedges, wrote that in my note, and then I went through the instructions for the individual wedges and just wrote in numbers, how do I make these? So now I have all the information for the panel that I'm currently working on in a note in my phone. Super easy, super convenient. Whenever I finish a wedge, I delete those instructions so that I always know that what's on top is what I'm working on. I highly recommend that you do that because it can be a chore to flip back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I really think I would have probably given up by now if I hadn't come up with another solution. I've made very few modifications to this pattern because this is not a pattern that you want to modify. It's perfect as it is, and also it's kind of difficult to modify. So I am following the pattern, except that I am doing German short rows rather than wrap and turns, and that's just my personal preference. The only thing I will say is if you choose to do German short rows instead of wrap and turns, remember to knit one extra stitch, because if the instruction is knit 5 wrap and turn, then you have 5 stitches and the wrapped stitch. If you knit 5 and do a German short row, you will have 4 stitches and the German short row. So you want to, when the pattern says knit 5, you want to knit 6 and do a German short row. I hope I'm making sense. I'm not sure, but trust me on it. I am also slipping the last stitch with the yarn held in front to get a nice edge that will hopefully make it easier for me when I have to decide how to gather these panels. The instructions say to seam them together, and that might be what I end up doing. I'm not sure, because I am thinking, because this is black and white, and here is my second panel, halfway through my second panel. So you're gonna be working with these black and white sections that you wanna seam together. And I would be concerned that if I use a white thread, won't it show up here? And if I use black thread, won't it show up here? I don't know. I'll have to test it. I'll have to give it a go with some matches stitching. I was also considering picking up stitches and then knitting them together with an I-cord bind off, but I don't know. I am thinking that maybe I will need this to be finished when I'm finished. Maybe. On the edges, as I said, you start by knitting the center panel. I am now knitting the right panel. I am now knitting the right panel, and I am here slipping the last 3 stitches with the yarn held in front, again to give it a nice edge. There is a different instruction for the edge in the pattern, but I chose to just go with my usual I-cord edge here. So yeah, I am really enjoying this. It's kind of portable, but maybe not the perfect conversation knitting, because you want to count your stitches, count your rows. It's brilliant TV knitting, but maybe not so good for conversations and actually paying attention to the people that you're with. I am using some very budget-friendly yarn for this one. I'm using Drops Baby Merino. It does take up quite a lot of yarn, so I'm happy that I went with a budget-friendly solution. I think that I'm gonna end up probably using seven balls of each color. I'm not sure. I am saving all the ball bands so that I can count when I'm finished, because this is my travel knit. It goes everywhere with me, and yeah, stays in the same project bag though, so that I know that I have everything I need for it. But yeah, I am enjoying this, and I am really excited for the finished wrap. I think it is so beautiful. My other forever knit is, I don't even know what to call it, because this is a very, very selfish knit. This is just a selfish project. This is just me allowing me to have a lot of fun. Do whatever I want to do, and if something that is usable comes out of it, fine. If not, okay, at least I had fun. After knitting the Snowflower vest, which was inspired by my Japanese Buddhist robes, in that it is a two-dimensional design, I could feel that I was not done exploring this two-dimensional kimono-like shape. So I wanted to play around with it a little more, possibly create a long, comfy cardigan, like super roomy and flowy, and yeah, I have lots of dreams for it, but again, this is actually not about the product, the finished product. It is mainly about me having a whole lot of fun. And I am having my fun with a lovely yarn. This is 50% silk, 50% merino. And yeah, you get the best of both worlds. The silk gives it this glow from within. It gives it beautiful drape. Silk is such a heavy fiber, so you have this wonderful drape. And the merino actually fluffs it up and fills it out. And yeah, this yarn really changes with blocking. This is also from A Knitter's World, and this is in her colorway My Way. And I have used this colorway before for my drop top that I showed on the last podcast. I love this. I know that in the skein it basically looks grayish, but depending on how the light falls, it will look gray or beige or sand or all kinds of neutral, beautiful tones. So first I was playing around with the, again, kimono shape, and I was doing some textured stitches just to see how that would work out. I did some twisted ribbing and then these textured stitches, and I wasn't convinced that I was loving it, so I decided to try another textured stitch, which I think that is what I will be going with. Probably easiest to show it here. It is like a waffly stitch. Super easy to knit, but it just gives some interest and some texture to the finished material that I really, really like. So yeah, I am having a lot of fun, and I do think a cardigan is coming, but I don't know. This is again a very selfish project. This is just me having a lot of fun exploring shapes and textures. And yeah, I chose a yarn that I really love. I chose my favorite needles. I chose some beautiful stitch markers. These are from Knitwear by Maki. You can find her on Instagram. She also does beautiful project bags. The needles are my favorite needles. I have always considered myself to be a metal needle knitter, but I cannot say enough good things about these Xiaogu bamboo needles. These are not the spin version. I don't know. I like the idea of the spin, but I have heard some people comment that that the yarn could sort of, it was like the joint wasn't as good as on the regular Xiaogus. So I am considering getting myself a full set of these Xiaogu bamboo, because just look how pointy they are. Even though that they're bamboo, they're not blunt. They're still sharp and very, very easy to knit with. And because I enjoy working with these super soft and kind of slippery yarns, a bamboo or a wooden needle is definitely a very, very good choice for yarns like this. So yeah, everything that I love in one project, and I am really enjoying myself. I don't have a lot of news this week. I was hoping to be able to announce the publication of my Christmas Day cast on, the Small Stars sweater, but no, maybe next week. I'm hoping that it'll be next week. The only thing I have to tell you about is to remind you of the Knitathon, our third Knitathon, which is coming up on April 22nd. It is a very informal 24-hour event where knitters from all over the world get together to knit, enjoy, celebrate our wonderful community here. There will be so many wonderful podcasters going live throughout these 24 hours. And I have been trying to look at some kind of solution to have all the Knitathon events in one place. I can't figure it out. So if you're a YouTube wizard and you can tell me, what, all you have to do is this, this, and this, I'd be so happy to make it happen. But for now, we're going to have to go with the format that we used the previous two times, where on my website, www.fiftyfabulous.dk, there is a schedule of all the events with links to each individual channel. Maybe you want to go there already now. Look at some of the channels in advance. They're all wonderful and amazing podcasters. So if there are some of those that are new to you, you might want to go give them a try before the Knitathon. Tips and Tricks is a new segment that I recently added to my Danish podcast. It's a segment where I talk about some of the tips and tricks that I have picked up in my years as a knitter, and where I answer any questions knitting related that you may have. I thought I would give it a try here on the English podcast. See if it was something that you'd be interested in. If you are, please put your questions in the comment section below, because that way I will know that at least one person will be interested in what I'm talking about. One thing that we have been talking about on the Danish podcast is the thing that sometimes happens on round yoke or raglan sweaters, where they sort of fold up here. I'm sure most of you know what I mean. It's like the fabric pulls up and there's a fold just under the, just below the neckline. We've been talking about why that happens, what you can do to avoid it, and also what you can do to actually remedy it if it is in a sweater that you've already finished. So there are two main reasons for this thingy to show up. One is obviously too few short rows. Usually when we knit top-down round yoke or raglan sweaters, we will add some short rows to raise the back of the sweater, and that will of course lower the front of the sweater. So if the sweater sits up here, it may make this fold when you then move around and bend a little forwards. So that can be the course of this thingy. But more often it's actually about not having enough stitches over your shoulders. See, if this line is too short, what will happen is that your sweater will like pull in, and this fabric here will then fold up, because you will have sufficient stitches coming down a little, but up here, if you have too few stitches, your sweater will fold. I haven't seen any patterns, and I also don't do it myself. I haven't seen anyone who gives the shoulder circumference. Actually, we should, because this is a very important measurement for fit. Especially if you, like me, have pretty broad shoulders. If you're not a small person, you will probably have experienced that you have too few stitches here and your sweater folds like that. What you can do, if you have seen that this is sometimes a problem for you, is that you can try your sweater on again and again as you are knitting this first section. And if you can see that it's tight at the widest point of your shoulder, rip back a few rounds and add some increases. Just take some of the increases that is happening further down in the pattern and add them up here, so that you will have sufficient stitches as you work your way over your shoulders. But what if you already finished the sweater? You started up here, you knitted all the way down. What to do? Are you really going to rip all that back? No, no one would probably do that, even though I really think we need to be good at ripping back stuff that is not working for us. But that's a totally different story. There are a couple of things you can do. Of course, you can try blocking it out. Depending on the yarn that you're using, you may be able to really stretch this one. And you have to be mindful as you're trying to block it out. that you are working in a circle. So when your sweater is laying flat on the blocking mat, you can't just pull here. That's not going to help. You will have to pull all the way around, like following a round of knitting, and pull it all the way so that you get some extra fabric here. Another thing you can do is actually pull it in, make the neckline tighter, because it's often easy to make a new neckline, or even just put in an elastic band to just pull in your neckline, because as you pull in your neckline, you also move the place where your shoulder is. So see on this one, here is the widest place on my shoulder. If I pull the neckline in, then I'm down here before I have the widest place on my shoulder. So if you have a lot of increases here, you might be able to solve the problem that way. You can also do as you would if you're making an afterthought heel. You could pick up stitches all the way around on both sides. Then you could rip back some of this, the top section, re-knit it with some extra increases, and then graft the two pieces together. I will say that grafting does take quite some time, but again, it takes a lot less time than re-knitting a whole sweater. And also, it is time well spent if it means that you actually end up with a sweater you're loving. Often, round yoke sweaters will have some sort of either color work or lace work or some textured stitches on the yoke. In that case, it is quite difficult to do that trick, and I wouldn't recommend doing it. I would, in that case, probably recommend that you reinforce your stitches in front, cut your sweater open, put on some edges, and wear it as a cardigan. That will also solve the problem, and you will get some use out of a sweater that you actually wouldn't wear if you didn't do something to fix it. If you were to steek a sweater that wasn't made to be steeked, you of course have to pay attention. Usually when you are knitting something that is being prepared to be steeked, you will have some steek stitches in the middle, and you will also be mindful of using, if you're knitting color work, using both colors in the steek stitches to like tie them in. So I would suggest reinforcing your stitches using a sewing machine, a zigzag seam all the way up and down on either side of one or two stitches. If you go one time up, one time down, and do the same again with one or two stitches in between, then you can easily cut, pick up stitches for a button band, and have a sweater that you can use. So these are my tips for the thingy. I have no idea what this fold is called. Thingy, I'm sure will work, because if you have ever had the problem, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have any questions at all knitting related, and you think that this segment is interesting, please add your questions in the comment section below, and then I will do my best to answer them as good as I can. As I have mentioned a couple of times, I am in Texas. Peter and I are here to take care of the two amazing and wonderful creatures that are our grandsons while their mom is in Brazil and their dad is working triple time, something like that. So we're here with the little ones and we are thoroughly enjoying ourselves, of course. I mean, from the moment that I wake up in the morning until the moment that I wake up in the middle of the night, a little bit confused, still fully dressed because I passed out during bedtime routines. There's a reason we don't have kids when we're in our 50s. I have, of course, since I'm in Texas, been sick. And I guess it's about time to make this official. Texas hates me. And it's really not fair because I love Texas. I love the people. I love all the kindness. I love the food. I love the cultural diversity. I love everything about Texas. I never ever called it a flyover state. I'm here for Texas. Go Lone Star. But Texas hates me, and every time I come, I get sick. I am feeling much better now. I'm sure you can hear that I'm not totally there yet. A couple of days ago, I almost lost my voice completely, but it's getting there. And I am hoping to be able to meet up with my knitting friends here in Texas. Hopefully I will get a chance to meet both some old friends and some new ones. I hope that we will be able to set up a day to meet at the McKinney Knittery. If it happens, I will be sure to let you know on my Instagram, just in case you're in the area and you want to come and say hi. Usually we have a wonderful time together, and for sure a trip to the McKinney Knittery is always worth it. I am going to wrap things up now. I did send Peter and my son away with the kids to the playground just to give me some time to record an episode, and if I work really fast, I might even be able to edit all of this before they come back. Thank you so much for watching. It really means the world to me. I am so happy to have knitting friends from all over the world. So thank you so much. Until next time, be well, be safe, and happy knitting.